I'm Jason. For as long as I can remember, my entire world was my dad's business. While my friends were out having fun, I was right beside him, learning everything. This wasn't just a company to me. It was our family's entire identity. I was determined to be the one to take it to the next level. After college, I dove in headfirst. I wasn't the boss's privileged son. I started at the bottom. I worked insane hours, often 80-hour weeks, missing birthdays and holidays. I was the one who landed our firm's single most important account, a huge corporate client that basically became our financial backbone. I solved problems no one else could. For 10 years, I was the reason we grew from a small local shop into a major player in our region. I built that place with my own two hands. My older brother, Kyle, was different. He skated by on pure charm. He'd roll into the office at 10, take 2-hour lunches, and his main job was organizing the holiday party. But in my dad's eyes, Kyle could do no wrong. My dad saw his charisma as executive material, while my hard work was just me not knowing how to relax. The disrespect became obvious in meetings. I'd present a solid, numbers-backed plan for a new project, and my dad would listen, then immediately turn to Kyle and ask for his opinion. Kyle would just rephrase what I said with a flashy smile, and my dad would act like it was pure genius. My work was the substance, but Kyle's presentation was all that mattered. The breaking point was with our biggest client. I managed every single detail of their account. But at a high-stakes dinner, my dad introduced Kyle as the strategic mind leading us into the future, and referred to me as our guy in the trenches. I was being erased from the narrative right in front of the people who knew I was the one actually doing the work. Then came the company's anniversary gala. It was a huge event, a celebration of decades of work. I felt a surge of pride, thinking this was finally the moment my contributions would be recognized. My dad gave a big speech about legacy and passing the torch. Then he dropped the bomb. And so, as I move toward retirement, he said, putting his arm around Kyle, "It gives me great pleasure to name your new president and CEO, my son, Kyle." The room exploded in applause. I just stood there, frozen. Felt like a dream, a nightmare. I looked at Kyle's smug, triumphant face, and then at my dad, who finally glanced my way with this weak, guilty look. He didn't just pass me over. He handed everything I had built to someone who hadn't lifted a finger. A decade of my life, my sacrifice, meant nothing. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. The hurt was so deep it turned into something else entirely. Clarity. I walked through the crowd, shook my brother's hand, and forced out a "Congrats, man." I looked my dad in the eye and said, "I truly hope this works out for you." Then I turned and walked out. I sat in my car in the dark parking lot, watching the celebration through the window. And in that quiet, a new resolve hardened inside me. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about justice. If my family didn't value me as their successor, they would soon fear me as their competition. For the first week, I did nothing. I slept. I went for long drives. The silence was deafening after a decade of constant pressure. My phone blew up, first with concerned texts from coworkers, then with increasingly frantic calls from my dad. I ignored them all. The betrayal had cauterized the wound. There was no more pain, just purpose. I spent that week in my home office, surrounded by notes and legal pads. I wasn't planning my next job. I was planning my next move. There was one person I needed to speak to, Michael, the CEO of our former biggest client, the account I had personally built from the ground up, the one that represented nearly 40% of my family company's revenue. I requested a meeting under the guise of industry consultation. When I walked into his office, he looked genuinely concerned. "Jason, we heard what happened. Your brother is, well, let's just say he's already called 3 times trying to renegotiate our contract." I didn't smile. I laid out my proposal. I showed him data on project delays and cost overruns that were already happening under Kyle's leadership. I presented a business plan for a new company I would start leaner, more efficient, and built around the specific needs of clients like his. "Come work for me," he said instead. I shook my head. "I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking for a partner." That meeting changed everything. Within 48 hours, I had filed paperwork for a new corporation, secured startup funding from 3 former clients who believed in me, hired back our 2 best project managers who had quit after Kyle's promotion, leased a small but professional office space. My new company was born in absolute silence. No announcement, no social media posts, just focused, deliberate action. Meanwhile, the rumors from my old company were grim. Kyle had immediately hired his expensive friends for senior positions, spent a fortune rebranding, started micromanaging projects he didn't understand, lost 2 more key clients. My father called me, his voice shaking. "Jason, please, come back. We need you." "You had me," I said quietly. "You just didn't value me." The final piece fell into place exactly 6 weeks after I walked out. Michael called me. "We're pulling our business," he said. "The quality has dropped off a cliff. Your brother just sent us a proposal that would increase our costs by 30% while cutting services." He paused. "The board voted unanimously. We want to move our entire account to your new company. All of it." I hung up the phone and looked at my team, the people who had believed in me when my own family didn't. That one phone call represented 65% of my old company's revenue. The company my father spent 30 years building. The company I spent 10 years growing. And I was about to become its executioner. My new company had just landed the client that represented 65% of my family firm's revenue. The silence from their end was deafening for about a week. Then the storm hit. My father showed up at my office unannounced. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Jason, you've made your point," he said, his voice trembling. "What will it take? Name your price. Come back as CEO. We'll fire Kyle today." I looked at the man who had built his business on my back only to hand it to my unqualified brother. "There's no price, Dad," I said calmly. "You didn't just betray me as a son. You betrayed me as the person who kept your company alive for 10 years. Some debts can't be repaid." What happened next was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. Within weeks of losing their flagship client, 3 more major clients terminated their contracts and came to me. Key employees started mass resigning. My phone was flooded with their resumes. Vendors began demanding upfront payments after bills went overdue. The bank froze their credit lines. My brother Kyle's desperate texts told the whole story. Week 1, "You're dead to me." Week 3, "Dad's having chest pains because of you." Week 6, "Please just take a meeting." The most satisfying moment? When my former operations manager, the one Kyle had demoted, came to work for me with our entire project database and client records. "They deserve what's coming," she told me. I saved my masterstroke for last. Remember that massive corporate client I mentioned? Well, there was a clause in their contract that Kyle had missed. A non-compete that prevented them from working with any of my family members for 2 years if our business relationship ended. A clause I had insisted on years ago to protect the company. When their lawyers received my cease and desist letter, the remaining 35% of my family's business evaporated overnight. Kyle had been illegally soliciting their business the entire time. The call came from my father this time. "You planned this from the beginning, didn't you?" he whispered. "No, Dad," I said. "I built safeguards to protect what I created. You just never expected to become the threat." That's when the unexpected happened. Not from my father or brother, but from the bank that had financed our family business for 30 years. They'd been monitoring the collapse and saw something they liked in my new company. The bank president himself called me. "Mr. Jason, we'd like to discuss acquiring what remains of your family's business assets. We believe you're the only one who can salvage any value from this situation." They were asking me to lead the buyout that would formally end my family's company. The ultimate irony: the institution that backed them for decades now wanted me to shut them down. The papers are sitting on my desk right now. For 3 days, I didn't sleep. I kept remembering the good years, working alongside my dad. The pride in his eyes when I landed that first big client. The smell of fresh coffee in the office early in the morning. This wasn't just business anymore. It was my history. My phone blew up with calls from extended family, old friends, even our former pastor. Everyone had an opinion. "Don't destroy your father's legacy," they begged. But what about my legacy? The 10 years of my life I'd poured into that place. My brother, Kyle, showed up at my house, something he'd never done before. He looked broken. No expensive suit, no arrogant smirk. Just a defeated man. "Please, Jason," he said, his voice cracking. "I was wrong. I was jealous of you my whole life. Dad always talked about you, your drive, your intelligence. I thought taking the company would finally make him see me as your equal." He admitted everything. How he'd manipulated our father, how he'd hidden the company's declining numbers, how he'd driven away good employees out of insecurity. For the first time, I saw my brother not as a villain, but as a flawed, desperate man. Then my father arrived. He stood in my doorway, tears in his eyes. "The business is gone, son. But I can't lose my family too." I made my decision. I signed the buyout papers, but not to destroy them. I created a new entity that absorbed what remained of the old company. I kept the name, preserving that piece of our family history. I rehired every loyal employee who wanted to come back, and I gave my father an honorary chairman position, a role with respect but no power. But for Kyle, I offered him a choice. Start at the bottom in an entry-level position and earn his way up like I had. No special treatment, no family privileges, just hard work. He took it. Today, my company is twice the size of what our family business ever was. My father and I have dinner every Sunday. The bitterness is gone, replaced by a hard-earned respect. And Kyle? He's actually thriving. For the first time, he's earning his success, and I've never been prouder of him. This journey taught me that revenge doesn't have to mean destruction. True victory isn't about crushing your enemies. It's about building something so strong that your past struggles become part of your foundation. It's about having the strength to offer grace, but the wisdom to set boundaries. To everyone who's been betrayed, underestimated, or cast aside, your worth isn't determined by their recognition. Build your own table, and you might just find enough seats for everyone to start over. And that brings us to the end of this incredible journey of betrayal, revenge, and ultimately redemption. What do you think, everyone? Was the OP right to ultimately forgive his family and bring them back into the business? Or should he have cut ties completely after everything that happened? Could he have handled the situation differently from the start to avoid such a devastating fallout? I truly value your perspective, so please, share your honest opinions and personal advice down in the comments below. Let's have a meaningful discussion about family, business, and second chances. To every single person watching right now, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for listening to this story, for sharing this emotional roller coaster, and for being a vital part of our community. Your time and attention mean the world to me. If stories like this one, raw, real, and full of tough decisions, resonate with you, then I have a small request. If you could give this video a like, it would help immensely in helping me bring more content to you. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell. Every single subscriber is not just a number. It's a huge source of motivation for me. It's what encourages me to keep finding and sharing these powerful, true stories. If you know someone who would be captivated by this story of family drama and business strategy, please share this video with them. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.